I actually don't know where to begin with this because the relationship between cricket and politics, especially between India and Pakistan, has always been messy, emotional, and unavoidable. One political incident leads to a sporting decision, and that sporting decision triggers another political reaction. And before you even know it, cricket becomes a tool for statements rather than just a game. And for decades now, India and Pakistan cricket has been less about bat and ball and more about borders, bloodshed, diplomacy, wars, terror attacks, diplomatic breakdowns have repeatedly shaped when and where these two teams even meet. Neutral venues have become the norm, bilateral series have vanished, and ICC tournaments are often the only place where these teams actually face each other. And today we find ourselves again in one of such crossroads. With this backdrop of history, politics, and symbolism, let me begin my first question, right? So, where do we actually locate the start of this chain reaction? Was it when India refused to travel to Pakistan for the Champions Trophy and an understanding emerged that India would not play in Pakistan and Pakistan would not play in India? Because that is precisely why Pakistan's matches were shifted to Sri Lanka. Then came the Pahalgam attack on April 22, carried out under the facade of religion. This led to intense firing between the two countries, and Operation Sindoor was carried out by the Indian Army. Even the IPL responded by delaying matches, observing silence. Players actually wore black armbands. And after that, Asia Cup in August became another stage of this tension to play out. We saw over celebrations from Harris Rauf, Shaheen Afridi, Bumrah responding in his own way, India walking off without handshakes, the Indian team refusing to take the trophy from Mohsin Naqvi, celebrating with an imaginary trophy. So these were not just cricketing gestures, right? These were like symbolic acts. And with all of this in background, the political government tweeted that it would play every match in Sri Lanka except the one against India in Colombo on 15th February without offering any explanation. So the core question is, should sports be viewed separately from political triggers?
No, you cannot look at sports in a political vacuum because, you go back, you started talking about when did it start? I would actually jog back and say when South Africa was banned for apartheid policy, what was that? What is that in the connotation of what is happening today, right? Or when Australian Cricket Board and the English Cricket Board did not allow Sri Lanka to be a test playing nation for a long time, even though, they were nearly ready. What was that? Or when Zimbabwe was refused visas to England because of political setup and they had to skip a World Cup, what was that? We've always had history, not just in cricket, but across all sports, where politics have always coexisted with sporting considerations. So this is not the first time. This is not new. I know it's because of India. There's a lot of media and frenzy around it, but it's always been there, right? So I don't think this is the first time. Second is, we got to figure out a world where this is going to coexist. It's not going to go away because sport is so intertwined into the fabric of the society. There's such an emotional connotation in the minds of the public that you're going to have government have a vested interest in how sport is played and what sport is played and which teams you compete with or don't compete with. So we just have to accept that this is going to exist. It has always existed. So to Nasser Hussain, who went on media today and spoke about India having its influence, where was Nasser Hussain when he refused to play Zimbabwe? Where the hell was he, right? And what is all this posturing he's doing now, talking about how India is, the aggressor? Where was ECB then when he refused to play himself? So this is all nonsensical. These are all people who are looking for their mileages in the moment. But in reality, this has always been the case. This will continue to be the case. We just have to accept the reality of how it's going to play out.
Politics is all over sport nowadays. You can't deny the fact that because you take other sports apart from cricket, even if you take FIFA, UEFA, those bigger boards, they don't club two nations at political unrest in a single group, which happens in cricket with India and Pakistan in a single group. So there is politics everywhere because politics uses sport as a medium to push their agenda. In my view, I think it should be avoided. Sport should be a thing that unites everyone rather than dividing people or dividing nations or even sportsmen. Some things that go over the line. That's when intolerance becomes a duty. So that's what India is doing now. They have got battered by Pakistan on political fronts, terror and every other thing. So now they're reacting. So we will talk more about this, but this is the outline of why India and Pakistan saga is going on.
Politics has always existed, and we should try and separate the two. but it's inevitable that one will bleed into the other. We don't live in a perfect world, and everybody involved is human after all, they have emotions. The only problem I have in this entire episode, and I'm no big fan of Bangladesh cricket or Pakistan cricket or them as nations as well. I am concerned with India. My view on this one is that India has somehow been able to provide the moral high ground to Pakistan and Bangladesh in these cases by being a bit hypocritical about all this. The fact that India can play at neutral venues, and even though a neutral venue exists, Bangladesh is not allowed to play. The fact that Mustafizur was taken out of the IPL to appease a certain political element. So apparently it's not safe for Mustafizur to travel, but it's safe for Bangladesh team to travel to India. All that hypocrisy is now sort of being called out. And even by hypocritical people themselves, like Sudhi called out Nasir, there is no bigger hypocrite in the world than him. And we have somehow given them an opportunity and given a failed nation like Pakistan an opportunity to call us out for our hypocrisy. That is where I have the problem. Now, India is well entitled to use its soft power, right? We are a cricketing powerhouse. We control 80% of the revenue. We are well within our rights to make sure everything works for us. But there is a way of doing that. And I think people like Jay Shah are failing at the power which India enjoys if they are not able to manipulate that in a manner which suits our needs but still doesn't portray us as bullies. That's where my problem is. India is losing the moral high ground, which it shouldn't, and should be able to demonstrate to the entire world we are not bullies, we are the victims here.
This is not about the nations, right? I want to be clear, right? Like we are talking about boards here. I know there is a political aspect to it. The elements that for me, right, underneath, if you break the layers, right, to your point, why did we choose to make a headline out of Mustafizur being, removed from a team when you could have easily managed that at the time of auction? You could have easily managed this if that was your intended outcome, right? That hey, I don't want any player from that country to enjoy the privileges and the benefits of a tournament that's played in India, right? If that was the intent, right? Which I don't agree with, but if that was the intent, you could have done it very subtly, right? I mean, they've done that. I mean, you look at South African League. How many Pakistani players play for South African League? Zero, right? You've already done that because we control a lot of the teams that play there, and there's, I think, one or two players who play in the Caribbean League. Except for the Big Bash, I think, generally, right, it's very less. I don't think there's anybody who plays for example, the 100, right? You're already doing that. My point is you could have managed this in a manner that there was no headline and therefore there was no need for an outcry. We didn't do that, right? We wanted to create a headline and therefore we are facing the brunt of it, right? That's one, right? Second is we know authority and power bring structured influence. We've seen that with, ECB and Australian Cricket Board, right? Right. I mean, if I jog back your memory, until the early 2000s, it was hard to get series done or broadcasters in place for outside of Ashes because ECB ensured that Ashes was always prime time, right? Other boards struggled to get revenue for anything outside of Ashes, right? So there's been soft power in ICC when these guys were running it. They made it hard for other teams to, get into test status. India, obviously, right? Like coincidentally, ironically, we were the ones championing for Bangladesh test status.
Yeah.
And obviously, it was pushed back heavily by the other boards. So we've seen, authority and power bring structured influence, and that's inevitable, right? That's what's going to happen. And especially now, the dominance and the disparity between BCCI and the other boards are so vastly different because if BCCI chooses to walk away, ICC is doomed. But you also have to give devil its due, right? As when India has sort of taken on more of the ICC responsibility in various forms, cricket generally has prospered. We can't ignore that. I mean, look at the number of teams playing cricket these days, right? I mean, the number of African teams playing cricket, the number of European teams playing cricket. I mean, Italy is in this World Cup, right? Who do you give that kudos to? It's obviously, the soft power, right, that we call, right? So there is benefits in what we have been able to accomplish as well. So are some influences that are probably not healthy. I think we've got to look at it balancedly, right? Like there is merit, there is, obviously goodness. But I do think that, this fundamental aspect of ICC saying that sporting bodies should be disconnected from the government is something that they have to enforce everywhere. And I think India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh have all been victims of this.
100%, Sudhi, 100%. And that's where I see the laziness in the approach of letting Pakistan get away with it. They should have used their brains more and continue to isolate them like we have been doing. Having that sort of approach in continue to sideline them is the way to approach this.
But
Right now,
Jagdeep, my point is, if you did that, fair enough, right? We are doing that, right? But then you end up playing ICC tournaments against Pakistan. You know that that's the one that brings in the money, right? So why that double standard? Like my point is, then boycott them everywhere. Like that's where I feel like there's a double standard here, that you choose to boycott them holistically, and therefore you penalize, like, which I don't agree with, right? I'm not a supporter of that. But you also end up doing this, and therefore, like, where's the logic? Do you make statements of not shaking hands? Like, what is all this? Like, under 19 team yesterday played so brilliantly. These are 18-year-old kids. You teach them this aspect of not shaking hands with somebody. Like, what are you grooming youngsters with? What mindset is this?
That is where again ICC becomes so powerless.
and that is exactly the point I was trying to make by saying that India has given the moral high ground away because they themselves came out as being rude by taking the money. We'll play them, but not shake hands, etc. And Asif Munir, their field marshal, made a very good point in a very self-facing way. He said, India is the Mercedes and we are the dumpster truck. And if they collide, imagine who loses more. They are so bomb, literally and figuratively. So, how did we get to a stage where people are sympathizing with them, not us? That is my point. My point is India has the money, India has the history on its side. We are doing the right thing, but still being castigated.
Yeah.
That is where
So
we should have been a little bit more clever and continue to do what we are doing. They were on their knees already.
I do think, right, that part of what ICC should do is really sit down with both the governments and first agree that there's going to be like de-government intervention. I would use the same logic and say, why is JSR running BCCI? Like when Supreme Court has said that any sporting body head should know how to play the sport, and here is the leader. He does some photo ops by hitting some tennis balls, right? But I truly think he doesn't have anything more than that. Why is he running the body? Like, I could place equal arguments against India for making BCCI so political and a political tool, as much as I would blame Pakistan for doing it. I feel like this is where ICC should really get their acts together and say, listen, right? Like I would blame England, I'd blame Australia, I'd blame, a lot of these erstwhile powers for, like running a show like this, right? So unfortunately, that's the way it's been. But here is an opportunity, right? Here is a moment where you could, and again, it need not be like en masse. You start with simple steps. Clean up the bodies, make sure that the bodies become more independent in their functioning. Of course, government inputs has to be taken, especially on security matters. We get all that. But at least day-to-day functioning, how the players conduct themselves, what decisions are made, what decisions are communicated to them should be more independent and thoughtful than using as a political tool. I think that's where you start.
ICC will never do anything which BCCI doesn't. ICC is just the Dubai office of the BCCI, really. That clout which we enjoy, we should focus on getting our cricketing powers right and letting some people with brains and diplomacy handle this situation in a manner that people continue to see Pakistan and Bangladesh for what they are. They are nuisance. Probably world cricket would be better without them. But right now, they enjoy the feeling of calling India out as bullies because the powers from India have failed in what they should have been really good at isolating them and treating them as what they are. Rather, everybody is pointing fingers at us, which I just do not like.
But that is the truth. Like, I agree with that. That's how it should be. We are behaving like a bully right now. And look, I'm not questioning whether we are right or wrong, right? Like, when you terminated Mustafizur's contract and you asked him to go back, we were a bully. And it's simple. We shouldn't have done that.
I feel India has acted rationally and consistently because ever since the 26/11 Mumbai attacks, India stopped bilateral cricket with Pakistan. Also, after the attack on the Sri Lankan team in 2009, the idea of security threats in the region has become very real. India has resisted offers from countries like England and Australia to host neutral bilateral series. Its position has been simple, right? It's been consistent. There is no bilateral cricket, only ICC tournaments, no travel to
Like,
Pakistan.
why? Even that I'm asking why. Like, why ICC tournaments is okay? Why, for example, India under 19 playing Pakistan under 19 is okay? Like, my point is, like, explain that rationale to me. I get it. I get the fact that you want to make a statement about not having cricketing ties with a country that's sponsoring terror, at least in your eyes. Unproven. Like, I want to be careful, right? We're not just blaming a country for the sake of it, especially on a public forum like this. But my question is, why do you play other tournaments? Why?
I think the only solution to that is we don't put both of them in the group. And once they get to the knockouts, there is no other option. Both the teams have to play each other. just like how it happens in
But
FIFA.
but
The mean bit is that you want to play them because we need the money, but we don't want to shake their hands, which makes us the bad guys in everybody's eyes.
like
We
why?
should be able to handle that better. Where is the diplomacy? Where is that brain which is required to handle these situations better? You've got the thing in the palm of your hand. You can do whatever you want to. We are paying for them to abuse us, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what is galling.
But on the flip side, right, I don't understand what Pakistan is reacting to, because is it anger over bloodshed at Kargil? Is it anger over Pulwama, Mumbai, or Pahalgam? Is it frustration that India played and won the Champions Trophy outside of the host country? Is it resentment over India and the ICC stance with Bangladesh, a nation that itself wanted freedom from Pakistan? Is it about India's refusal to play bilateral series since 2611? Or is it simply about losing to India repeatedly since that one win in 2021? So, what are they actually reacting to?
Why should
Nothing.
Pakistan react? Why should Pakistan react? I'll tell you why India should react. India and Pakistan, they had a good cricketing relation even before 2008 attacks, but it worsened after that. If that attack never happened, India and Pakistan would have been playing bilateral cricket. They would have had Pakistani players in the IPL. Everything would have been normal by now. Cricket was the only bridge between those two nations, despite all those troubles that happened. So, this same pattern repeats every time. Attack after attack after attack, India will not be quiet. And Pakistan,
No,
they are needlessly reacting to things. The fault
And their
lies on
reaction
their
is also
side.
irrational, right? The day this
Yeah,
announcement came out, their under 19 team actually played India. I don't know
correct.
what's
no,
the
but
They
logic.
played, first of
no,
all.
they're using the moment and the opportunity to create
Exactly.
headline.
Timing.
That's what
Timing.
we did.
That's it.
Like, how is it different? Like guys, I feel like you guys are all taking this very passionate position about we will support India, and I support India too, right? But all I'm saying is, like, they're doing tit for tat, man.
They've been given an opportunity on a platter and they're just taking it. What you said, Nimal, they are reacting to none of that. They are not given to that. They are not obliged to do that. They are no big friends of Bangladesh. They're just standing up for them for show. And they're just using this opportunity. You can't blame them for hitting a half volley to the boundary. It's just being served to
Yeah,
them on a platter and they're taking it. And that's again, I come to my the singular point I want to make in this show, that India has ceded the moral high ground in front of everybody. And now India is being called out as a bully, which we might or might not be. I agree with Sudhi that what we have done is probably bullying anyways. We had to do better. And that's what world diplomacy is about.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I don't think we should have any complaints. Let this play out, right? I'm sure Pakistan is not going to walk away. And if they walk out from the India match, they might not even make it to the Super 8s. So Pakistan probably knows this better than all of us do. So they'll
Yeah.
find a middle ground. I think diplomacy will win here.
They
But the
are a
question is,
dumpster truck, Sudhi. They are.
they won't give ICC and BCCI another leverage now. If they boycott the match, right, especially a contracted tournament where they've agreed to participate, in the code of law or ICC's rule book, I was reading through it the other day, it's very clear. If you do not meet the contractual obligations of an ICC tournament, the penalties can be severe and they could be banned. And the ban can be 10 years.
There is a funny thing. The rules for this T20 World Cup haven't been announced by ICC. The playing conditions can have even more severe penalties laid out for an act like that. Basically, BCCI or ICC holds all the cards. But my point is, I don't think Pakistan cares about that. They can show that they are the martyrs by sacrificing this, sacrificing money, Pakistan being isolated from world cricket. All that kind of suits their narrative that we are the victims here. See, the big brother bully is bullying us.
So let us come to the consequences, right? The ICC has warned Pakistan, like Sudi uncle told, that this move could have serious repercussions, but that has not yet been specified what those long-term consequences will be. Pakistan's captain has already said that this was a government decision and that the team will focus on making the most of the rest of the tournament. But from a sporting perspective, right, Pakistan automatically loses two crucial points, and its net run rate takes a hit because a forfeit at 20 over match is still counted in the NRR calculations. And on a lighter note, they probably were not going to get those 2 points anyway. But yeah, NRR is definitely going to take a hit. From a financial and commercial perspective, the damage is massive, right? Geo Hotstar could lose nearly one-fifth of its advertisement revenue of this tournament. Fans lose the biggest rivalry match in cricket. People who bought tickets in black could lose their money. The ICC and BCCI could lose a significant chunk of revenue. While this may not be as catastrophic as India boycotting the entire World Cup, it is still a major financial blow for the sport. But when I thought about it, right, from Indian players' perspective alone, there's a strange advantage because they avoid unnecessary travel. We get extra rest days in a long tournament. We avoid unfamiliar conditions like Jagdeep Uncle told in the last discussion. We gain more time to prepare for the Super 8 stage because that is where the tournament truly intensifies. So, my final question is how should the ICC respond while balancing the interests of all stakeholders, players, fans, broadcasters, and governments? And how should the BCCI respond from its end?
I spoke in the Champions Trophy winning video once. ICC should start behaving like a governing body, first of all. Should start behaving like an organization which runs the sport rather than being puppets of some organizations, BCCI in this case. I would like to bring in a footballing example here. AFC, the Asian Football Confederation here. Once what happened was one of our Indian clubs refused to go to Iran to play a game. They did not only check out the points of that game, they removed the team from the tournament. This is one particular confederation, one member confederation which has done the job. Now ICC over here in cricket is the governing body of the whole world sport. All right. So if Pakistan is daring to say that, then see how powerless ICC is. Now they should be in a position to kick Pakistan out of the tournament, replace them with another team, just like they did to Bangladesh, replacing them with Scotland. So even if Pakistan goes out, there are big marquee matches in the next stage where India, anyway, they want to face Australia, or they might face England, they might face South Africa or New Zealand as well. So all those are also commercial blockbusters. See, India Australia game is a very bigger game than India Pakistan game nowadays in terms of competition and equality. Both the teams are toe to toe with each other. ICC should think in that angle and take some harsh decisions. In future, if the sport is getting globalized, you're bringing more nations in. See, cricket is becoming an Olympic sport. Japan will step in, US will step in, China will step in. All these are powerhouses in sports. The day when these guys get prominence and become more huge in cricket, you can see India facing against USA as a big game rather than India facing Pakistan. Pakistan might become a small team in future. Who knows? So protect the integrity of the game. Don't give too much into government and everything. And main thing is just this government interference has to stop. ICC should become strict. Hence, this cricket will become a drama rather than being a sport.
See, let's break down the economics, right? And then we'll look at what would be the options, right? Let's talk to broadcasters, right? But that's really where the impact is, right? So the total broadcasting fee that Jio Hotstar has paid ICCI for 5 years, right? From 2023 to 27 is about $3 billion. Okay. That's the fee that they paid, right? Of which the India-Pakistan component of those 5-year matches is about 250 million. Jio Hotstar may argue that's the price I paid you, but the amount of revenue I make on that is may probably double. But 250 million is the value of India-Pakistan component of that 3 billion. Now, if you sort of break it down, you would expect at least India-Pakistan to play twice, like in a year. That contributes to 250 million. So it's about 25 million a match. So this Sri Lanka-India-Pakistan match, in my view, is worth 25 million to Jio Hotstar in terms of the cost that they've paid. That's the minimum Jio Hotstar will expect to recover from ICC, if not more. I mean, some numbers that are being thrown around are like 35 million, 40 million, but 25 million, in my view, is the actual cost. Now, ICC pays Pakistan in a year 36 million. That's their share. Okay. So if ICC wanted to basically not take the brunt of the Jio Hotstar cost, they just stop paying Pakistan their annual fee, right? And that will neutralize whatever is the price that ICC has to pay back to Hotstar for Pakistan walking away from. And this does not include any of the tickets, compensation to the Sri Lankan board, right, for the match day revenue, etc. Right, that is not included here, right? So roughly that's the math, right? Now let's look at the options. One, like I said, my belief is Pakistan will play the match. They'll probably show some solidarity by wearing a black armband, which ICC will allow them to do, and they will probably, again, right, none of them will shake hands, so the match will be played in a very cold manner. That's probably what is likely to happen, in my view, right? Now, if that happens, it all ends well. Now, the issue still doesn't get solved because, there'll still be this conversations around how ICC, to your point, Prashant, right, can be a more governing body versus, a body that's just on the sidelines. But at least all ends well for this tournament, right? Now, option number 2, right? If Pakistan chooses to walk away, to your point, Nimal, there could be a massive impact in terms of Pakistan's ability to qualify for Super 8s, that aside, which probably they don't care about, right? Or they could still make it by winning the other 2 matches significantly at a better run rate, right? The bigger impact is going to be that what is ICC going to do beyond the, the penalty of recovering the money, which ICC anyway has to pay to Jio Hotstar. So there's a logical transaction to justify that. What is the penalty that ICC will put on Pakistan for breaching the contract? because Bangladesh obviously will stand against the fact that, oh, we informed you earlier, we gave you a month's notice. So ICC was able to react by putting in Scotland, but Pakistan, it's a different proposition, right? So that is what we need to see. But I think if they do that, Pakistan is probably going to see a ban for 10 years. They're probably going to see, none of their players being allowed to participate in any overseas leagues, none of foreign players allowed to participate in Pakistan cricketing leagues. So you're going to see that massive repercussion, right? Which none of us want, right? It's unfair. Like cricketers are cricketers, they're humans after all. But those are the only two options I see. And I still believe it's probably going to be option number one, where they're going to come and play, but with some solidarity to show that they're still supporting Bangladesh.
As things continue to unfold, right, this entire episode feels like a disappointment for millions of eager fans. Ironically, this might actually be a relief for those who have exams and deadlines on February 15th if the match does not happen. But beyond the jokes, right, this controversy forces us to confront a deeper issue. Is cricket still a game between two teams, or has it become a political instrument wearing the clothing of the sport? And if this rivalry is now driven more by statements than by runs and wickets, where does India Pakistan cricket go from here? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And for more such conversations that go beyond the scoreboard and boundaries and into the stories that shape the sport, this is Beyond Boundaries. Do subscribe, keep listening, and stay with us as we continue to unpack the politics, the passion, and the people behind the game. Thank you.